Hey, welcome back all. This is Naresh here. In my previous video, I have shown like how we can create an iceberg table using an Athena and how we can query it using an Athena. In this that is completely on the AWS sites. So the data gets stored in your glue table. And the your data metadata about your table definition will be stored in the glue catalog, and your data is sitting on AWS S3 bucket, and you are able to query it using the Athena. That is a plain AWS implementation of the Iceberg table. So as we know that Snowflake is also supporting the Iceberg tables. So as I mentioned, it has two types of tables. One is the managed Snowflake Iceberg table, and the other one is the externally managed Snowflake Iceberg table. We'll look at the second one, externally managed Snowflake Iceberg table, in the next video. But in this video, we'll look at the managed Snowflake Iceberg table. So the difference between the managed Snowflake Iceberg table and externally managed Snowflake Iceberg table is the way this catalog information gets stored. Where the catalog information is getting stored is differs. In case of the Snowflake managed externally managed Iceberg table, the catalog information gets stored in the glue table, and the Snowflake is used as a query engine. In today's video, we are going to look at the managed Snowflake Iceberg table, where the catalog information gets stored in the Snowflake only, and the Snowflake is used as a query engine, and it will store the data of the table in the S3 bucket, that is on the customer storage, customer data lake S3 bucket. So we'll try to see the all the steps required for it to set up this configuration, so that we will understand. We'll query it, and then we'll see that. So to do this one, first we need to have an S3 bucket. So I have an S3 bucket here. My S3 bucket is I have an S3 bucket created, and it has some certain directories. We can leave them for now, and if the data bucket name is the data leader, and this uh, is using the server side KMS key encryption. So that is why I have my KMS key. So have this is an S3 bucket, right? So now the Snowflake is deployed on another S3 account, that is Snowflake managed AWS account. So it needs to access the S3 bucket. Right? How it can access? So in the AWS, if you wanted to access anything, it can happen through the IAM roles. So what we can do is we'll go and create an IAM role in our AWS account, and we will allow this IAM role to be assumed by the Snowflake. And on this IAM roles, we will add permissions to access this bucket. So that way, Snowflake can assume that role, can access the data that is sitting in this Iceberg table. So that way, the Snowflake store the catalog information it's in it, but actual data gets stored in our AWS S3 bucket. So this bucket data can be available for the other query engines like the Snowflake or Trino or Databricks. Okay, so the first step in doing that is let me go and create a new slide. So the first step in this process is we go and create a so first we here is the steps. So we create a first we create a role with policy. So then we will configure snowflake 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 external values. So this is a way, using the external volumes, Snowflake can access the data that is available in the AWS S3. So we create a bucket too. So create a bucket. I think first one is a create a bucket. So create a bucket, and then we create a policy role with a policy and configure the Snowflake external values, and we will configure IAM role created in step 2 to be assumed by Snowflake, so that Snowflake can access this uh, the data. Snowflake can access the data or write the data to the uh, to this S3 bucket. Okay, so let's go and see how we can do that end-to-end demo in this one. So I have a bucket, so and I have created the KMS key, and that KMS key is configured with this bucket. So the second step is we are going to create a policy. So you can go and create a policy using this policy section, and when you specify, when you are creating a policy, it will ask for what actions you wanted to define as part of this policy. So you can select like the list, read, and all. So those all the information you can select it, and once you have this information, you can save the you can go to the next and then save it, so that you will have a policy. In this, for this demo, I have already created a policy. I named the policy as a Snowflake access, and here I mentioned like all the S3 access I can read and write to the S3 bucket that I have created. Okay, so once we have this call policy, then we go and created a role, and then this role is for the role. So we added the policy that we created in the previous step, that is a Snowflake access policy. So we added that one, and then okay, so before that one, let me quickly show you one more thing here. So when you are in this here, so you can click on the create role. When you are click on the create role, you have to select the AWS account, because this role is assumed by another AWS account, right? So that is why you have to put the AWS account. For now, you can mention this is as an this your account, because we will get the AWS account from the Snowflake, and then you can go and mention what is the policy you wanted to add. So I have the policy, right? Snowflake access, right? We can select the Snowflake access, and then we can give the role, and then click on the save create role. It will create the role. So for this demo, I have already created a role, Snowflake role. So what we did so far is we created a policy, we created a Snowflake role. So this is the setup required from the AWS side. We need to update the trust policy on this IAM role, that we will get the details from the AWS Snowflake account, and then we'll update the details here. So far what we have done is we created the bucket, we created a policy, and we added the policy to it. So now let's get back to the Snowflake and create some external volumes. So the external volumes are the way to access the data sitting on the AWS S3. If you are aware of the storage integration, so it's kind of the same AWS Snowflake storage integration, but it access for the Iceberg tables, they are calling as an external volumes. So here in my, I logged into my Snowflake account, and my Snowflake account is in the region, my Snowflake account in the region of the, my Snowflake account is in the region. Okay, let me do this one away. So my Snowflake account, and this Snowflake account have is in the region US East 2 region, US East 2, that is Ohio region. So I logged in here, and I logged in as an account admin. So now I'm going to create these the warehouse role, database schema. These are the standard things. So I'm going to create a granting the role on this database, on this database schema or warehouse to this role I created, and then I created a creating a user with, and I specifying the role as an Iceberg default role as an Iceberg lab role that I created in it. So these are the standard user setup and the warehouse database schema setup. So once we have done that one, so with the account admin role only can do that one. So this with the account admin role, I'm going to create an volume, that is an external volume. So that in the external volume we are mentioning that this is, we are giving some name to it, and then we are providing a storage provider, that is data sitting on S3. So that's why we put the S3, and then we, our data is sitting on this S3 bucket, right? So that's why we put it as an storage bucket. And this IAM role is the IAM role that we created in the second step. This is the role we created, right? So I took this ARN of the role and I put it here, and then I'm the S3 bucket using the server side KMS key encryption. So that is why I mentioned the AWS SSC KMS, and the KMS key is ID is a KMS key that this bucket is using. So this bucket is using this KMS key. So I have mentioned that specific KMS key, and then you create a table. You create this storage location. So once you run this one, it will create external volume. You can run the describe on it. So when you run it, you will get a certain value. So if you click on this storage location properties, it will have certain information like uh, it will have an storage AWS external ID. This is the ID we need it, and also it will have a storage AWS AARN. So whenever our Snowflake account gets created, it will have an AWS user account. This is the IAM user created in this Snowflake accounts in this Snowflake account. So Snowflake will use this user to access the data that is sitting in the IAM user, and this IAM user will assume the role that we have configured here, so that he, when the user Snowflake assume this role, it can have an access to the data that is defined here, right? So it can access the S3 bucket. So to assume this role Snowflake, we need to update the trust relationship. To update the trust relationship, we need the two things. One is the principal, the user IAM user of the Snowflake, and also the external ID. This is a unique ID created for the each user, each the storage volume that we created. So it will have both the information like the AWS IAM user and then the storage external AWS external user ID. So when you take these values and update the Snowflake Snowflake role, so that your Snowflake can assume this role and can access the data sitting in this S3 bucket. So that is what the configuration we have done it here. So once you have done this one, so you create and give an access on this volume to the role Iceberg Lab. So because this role is going to create a new database and tables and Iceberg tables in the Snowflake side. So we give an access using the grant. So this is so with that, so the external volume can be accessed by the any user who assumes this role. So having said that one, this is the setup we need to do with the user as an account admin. So then we log in back as a user Iceberg lab user, and then we will try to create the tables and schemas, and we'll create an Iceberg table from there. So for this one, I am going to sign up from my account, and I'm trying to log in as a user Iceberg lab. This user I'm logging it. So I logged in here, so I have assumed this role like the user can assume the Iceberg globe. So user can use this Iceberg database and schema. So here I'm creating a table. If you see then here I'm creating a Iceberg customer Iceberg table with the catalog as a Snowflake and the external volume as the Iceberg external volume that we created. And here we are saying the catalog as a Snowflake, because why we are saying that, because we are using the Snowflake as a catalog and a query engine. So that is the reason we have mentioned the catalog as a Snowflake. And then we mentioned the external value where we wanted the data related to this table get stored is under this external volume. This external volume basically pointing to an AWS S3 bucket. Okay, so then so let me go and create a table with this one. So let me go and do So let me go and create a table kill the customer iceberg too. So but before we do that one, let's go and check what is there inside this directory. So here I have the three folders are there. So let me go and create a table and see what will happen. So let me go. So it's created the table. So we can describe the table and see that one. Describe table iceberg 2 because that's the one I created, right? So we have the table definition, all those columns it was mentioned. So now let's go and insert some data into this table. So I'm using the sample data that is provided by the Snowflake and inserting the data into this iceberg table. So before we do that one, let's go and check in the directory structure if it is. You see, it's created a new folder. Under this, there is just a metadata directory because when we created this table, it's created this folder called the iceberg customer 102442. That's some internal representation of the Snowflake, and then it has this metadata because we know that iceberg table have the two directories. One is called the metadata, one is called the data. So the metadata will have all the metadata information and the data is will have the data. Right now we have not inserted any data inside it, so we don't see any data here. So let's go and insert some data into this table and then we'll see what is going to happen. So now we are, yeah, so it's inserted a certain number of rows like 15,000 1,50,000 rows into this. So let's go and check in this S3 bucket. Here we don't have anything. Let me refresh that one. See, it's created a new data folder and it inserted all the data into this certain Parquet files, right? So now it's have the data in the data folder and metadata in this metadata. So now we have inserted into this table, right? Let's go and see if we can query that table data that we created. So here we go. We are able to query the iceberg table data that we inserted just now. With this, we can say that Snowflake used as Snowflake used as my catalog and the query engine, and my data is sitting on AWS S3 bucket. So this is my S3 bucket, and this is the directory where my table data is stored. So the data is just storing in the AWS S3 bucket that is in our AWS account, and the Snowflake is running in the Snowflake AWS account. But we are able to create the tables as and when like the Snowflake internal tables, and it is having all this data in this AWS S3 bucket. So with this, what we can do is this table data can be accessed by any other engine, not only the Snowflake. We can go and create a table out of this as by location in the Athena and the glue. We can query this table also. So that's it for this video. So just to recap, what we have done is we have created a Snowflake table inside the Snowflake, and that Snowflake table is pointing to the AWS S3 bucket and where it is going to store the data, and that connection between the Snowflake to the AWS S3 happen through the external volumes. And then we configured the user roles. We configured the uh, IAM role, and we updated the trust policy of this IAM role so that only the Snowflake user can access this role and they can read the data sitting on this AWS S3 bucket. Thank you for watching this video. It's a little bit big video, but hope you get something out of this video. Thank you. Bye bye.